Good day and greetings from the Great White North. My name is Prickly Poo and welcome to day 293 of a year of change. Today, I'm still sort of at a loss. I really wanted to find something to sort of get things started with exercise and, try to find a really good documentary. I had a couple things in mind that I wanted to find, and it's just, everything's just sort of intermediate or above. There's nothing really out there for beginners. And years ago, I saw something, and it wasn't a video, but it was just sort of like a posting or a poster or a booklet or something that sort of went through what happens when you quit smoking. And I can't remember if it was before I quit or I think probably after I quit because I quit about 10 years ago now. So, and it said, after the first hour of not smoking, here are the changes in your body. After the first day, after the first week, and then a month later, this is what happens to your lungs. And then after 2 months, then your risk of heart disease goes down by however much. And then after, I think, 6 months, and then after a year, and it had different timelines and showing, the improvement that your body makes when you're doing it. And I really wanted to have something like that for the exercise because for so many of us, we never got any. And I wanted to see something that said, after your first day of exercise, here are the improvements. And then after a week and after a month and a year and everything else. And it's been really difficult because the majority of the stuff that you find is just sort of, a lot of it's psychological, saying, oh, well, you'll enjoy this and you'll feel lighter and you'll do a whole bunch of stuff. So it's been difficult to try to find something. But I thought the only thing that I could really do is sort of talk about what I know, which isn't much because the only thing I really know is the walking bit. That's all I've really been doing. But like so many of us, my exercise, when I was, even after I had started doing, recording and stuff like that, I wasn't exercising at the time. And the most exercise I ever would have gotten is pretty much what you're seeing now. Just sort of sitting and maybe getting up, going back and forth between, my computer and the kitchen and my computer and the bathroom and then my bedroom and like just basically puttering around the house. Maybe house cleaning is probably the most exercise I ever would have gotten. And it's part of it is because it's difficult to get started. It really is. Because you're carrying around so much extra weight. And I mean, I know that I still have a long way to go. I still have another 75 pounds or so to lose. I still have a tremendous amount of weight I'm carrying around with me. But it is better than it was. I remember being, getting out of bed and being out of breath from getting out of bed, which none of us should really be that far gone. Just that initial thing, you first, like aside from not sleeping well at all, that, when you first get up in the morning and you sort of do that little rocking back and forth and then finally get yourself up out of bed or you roll over and then you sort of push yourself up. And even that little bit of exertion, I was out of breath. And it's so weird seeing where I am now, which is still not where I want to be, but still much, much better than I was, even 6 months ago. And to give you an example, aside from the being out of breath when I'm getting out of bed. I'm not saying that to be funny or be a smartass or anything. I legitimately mean I would wake up and by the time I got out of bed, I was out of breath because I'm carrying around so much extra weight. But you don't notice it at the time because it's so gradual, the weight gain, and you just become so accustomed to it. And I think a lot of it is too that we block it out of our minds, so we don't really deal with it the way that we should be. Doesn't matter how big you are. I know this, that you looked at someone and said, well, at least I'm not that bad. At least I'm bad. I know I'm in rough shape, but at least I'm not that bad. And I look at people that, say celebrities, for example, that I've said that before, and then I look back and I think I was worse off than they were. I mean, I weighed more than they did, and they had, half a foot or more on me. So anyway, when I do my treadmill now, after about an hour, I average around 7 kilometers an hour. I usually just record it as a 5K because it's easier for me. I don't want to have to do math and everything else. But at this stage, I'm now running or jogging for 3 minutes at 9 kilometers an hour, and then I walk for 2 minutes at 5 kilometers. So it averages out to around 7 kilometers for the hour that I'm going. And I find that after that hour, I mean, I couldn't imagine even really walking for an hour. 9 months ago, let alone jogging for 3 minutes straight. Like it's so far. And I mean, even now when I start out, when I do that increase, it still kicks my ass every single time. But by the time the end of the week comes, it's manageable. I notice now that at the end of that hour, my lungs are burning. I'm sweating all over the place. Kind of gross. But, I know that I've done something. And it doesn't bother me the same way that it would have, 9 months ago. Because I think that's a real deterrent for a lot of us to start exercising. Is that we think, I'm going to be so tired. I'm going to be sore. And I'm already tired. I am already sweaty. And I haven't even done anything yet today. Which was always a huge concern of mine. Which we never actually talked about, which we should at some point. Just being sweaty in general. But now, when I'm done, I'm out of breath, and my feet are kind of achy, and my legs are not hurting, but I can tell that I've done something. And they aren't sore the next day or anything. There isn't that really painful ache that you sort of associate with exercise. The thing is, of course, I had those aches and pains anyway when I wasn't doing any exercise because I was just carrying around so much weight. But what I found is that because I've started, losing some of that weight, it's a little easier for me to move. So walking doesn't hurt as much as it used to. And in turn, jogging doesn't hurt as much as it used to. I have bits still flopping around all over the place. Not just my bits. I don't mean, everything's flopping around all over the place. It came out weird. But, there's still some negative connotations to it. But it's certainly not as bad as it would have been, when I was 325 pounds. And getting to that point has taken a long, long time. But after that hour now, my lungs and, how I feel, my just being achy and sweaty and gross and everything else, it's actually less than the very first time that I walked the hill at work. And I've discussed this before. I had a whole thing where I was parking on the hill and everything else. And even now, I haven't had to go up there in a very long time, but it's so different because, I have that connection to make, but just walking, not even, zipping up the hill, but actually just taking a very slow walk up the hill. My lungs were burning 12 hours later. When I woke up the next morning, I still had a hard time breathing. It was so terrible. And now I'm looking at it going, I'm doing, an hour of exercise, roughly an hour, every day. And it's not, severe exercise. I'm not running marathons. I'm not pushing myself as hard as I could go. I'm tired by the end of it, and I'm sweaty, and I'm out of breath and everything else, but I feel better. And not just, my body's all energized. I just mean mentally, I just think, okay, you know what? I've done that today. I've got it under my belt. I'm not to a stage yet where I think, oh God, I need to run. Certainly not there. I don't know if I'm ever going to be there, but I am to a stage where I still kind of feel guilty if I don't do it on the weekend. But the reason why I'm sort of getting into this is that because we focus so much on food for such a long time, part of that is because we need to lose some of the weight before we can really start doing anything to get, that exercise portion in. We started a little bit here and there, but really it was just to sort of get us into a pattern and get us set for what we're trying to do. So for a lot of us, I think it's probably been, we haven't really touched on it, so that's fallen by the wayside. But what I think you're going to notice is that, let's try that sentence one more time. What I think you are going to notice is that this is also part of the reason why we're sort of doing an accelerated version of that, so that it's not every 3 or 4 weeks that we're making an exercise change, it's every single week, is that it's much easier to get back into it, after you've already done it for a little bit. Because when I was sick, I had probably 3 or 4 days, I think, where I didn't do the treadmill at all. And in my head, there's that block that says, you know what? You've completely screwed your week now. It's going to be so difficult to get back into it, which really sort of pushes you and you go, I don't want to do this anymore. And then I tried when I was still sick and just did not work at all. I think I made it about 20 minutes. And then I simply couldn't do it. So it is difficult to sort of get in there, but it's still, after that hiatus and even after being sick, it's still much easier to sort of get back into where I was than it was 9 months ago when I just sort of 9 months, 10 months almost now, where I hadn't done anything and just trying to figure out how do I start. So like we've been doing this week, started out with not taking the elevator and what was the other one? Something else. The parking spot. just grabbing any parking spot, not waiting for one closest to the door. And then after a couple of weeks of that, then that's, I think it was a few weeks actually when I started parking on the hill. And just having, the walk down wasn't too bad. I had an hour to make it to the top, and it only takes about 5 minutes. The first day, though, I think it took me probably close to 10 or 15. I didn't want to stop partway through, but oh my God, it's so steep. But just making those little changes back and forth, or not back and forth, because that makes no sense, but making those little changes week to week, it adds up. And so I'm to a stage now where I think even if I had gone, 2 weeks without doing anything, it would be tough to get back into a regular routine, but it would be much easier than just sort of starting from scratch like I did. So this is part of the reason why we're doing this a little bit more accelerated. Part of it, of course, obviously being that we are running out of time. We've got, 10 weeks left, roughly, to get all this stuff done. But that's mainly to get us to a point where we know what we're doing and we can continue on our own. So, but I don't think it's going to be as difficult because we had done it before. You know what to expect. You know where your limits are. You know when it's going to start aching. You know when you're going to start sweating. You know what you need to do, what you like doing, what you don't like doing. And let's face it, none of us like doing anything. This is why we are the way that we are. None of us, I think, are at a stage where like, I'm so excited I get to do exercise today. There are some people that are like that. And I think that it will come in time. It's going to be a long time before it does hit us that way. But for right now, just getting into that routine, I think is helpful because although I'm not excited to do it in the morning when I get up, it's something that I know is part of my day. And, trying to figure out, okay, well, I need to fit that in there before I, get ready and do all my stuff and then go to work and everything else. I tried last week, was it? Or earlier this week? I tried at some point anyway, breaking it up and saying, I'm going to do half an hour in the morning and half an hour at night. Did not like it at all. I felt like I hadn't done what I was supposed to do in the morning, which bothered me all day. And then at night, at the end of the day, I'm just like, I really don't want to do it. And I did it, and I just was like, I'm not doing that again. I want to get it all done. First thing in the morning, I feel better throughout the day because of it. Again, not the whole, I'm energized, but just, I don't know. Overall, I think it's because it's just that routine. That's what makes it sort of beneficial to me anyway. So that's what I want to get us to, is to a point where it becomes part of our daily routine, where you're not necessarily going to go, oh, I'm so grateful that I get to exercise today. But to a point where we aren't, where we were months ago, going, fuck that, I'm not exercising. No, it's going to be horrible. I already hurt. I can barely move the way it is now. And now you're going to add all this extra shit in there on top of it. And we have come a very long way. Some of you have lost, a little bit of weight. Some of you have lost a tremendous amount of weight. And it's going to be different for everybody. But overall, we're healthier than we were. And so even if you are just even if you never touched the exercise portion of it, even if you just focused on the food aspect of it, you have lost weight. If you've stuck with it, then you've made progress. You've lost weight. So getting started and getting into an exercise program like this, we'll call it a program because I know I'm going to say it again. It's not really a program. It's like an exercise thingy that we're trying to figure out, what do we do that we aren't going to hurt ourselves? Getting started in on this is going to be much easier now than it would have been, 292 days ago when we first started out. 293, I know, but I'm counting today, so 292s, which would have been day one. Work with me. It's math. We're okay. So if you think back to where you were then, okay? Even if you hadn't touched any of the exercise, and look at where you are now. And if someone said, okay, you can either start from there or you can start from here, starting in on the exercise thing. But if you're starting from here, it's going to be a little bit quicker than you would way back then. Then chances are you're going to think, it's going to be easier to start this way. And we aren't going to be pushing ourselves to a point where you're going to be going to the gym 2 or 3 hours a day by the end of 12 weeks. Simply not going to happen. It's taken us almost a year to get to a point where we can sort of handle food. And I know that part of this feels like, oh God, I got to start all over again. But now with exercise, trying to change our mindset to that and how we react to that the same way that we did with food. But because I think that hard part is under our belt, which has gotten smaller, by the way. Boom, boom. Anyway, now that food part is gone past there, you know what I mean, then I think the exercise, although it's different, it's going to be a little easier to handle than if we were starting way, way back then. And for those of you that have continued on and that are already doing exercise, this portion is probably going to be much easier for you than it is for anyone else. But I want to make it so that, if you're just starting out or if you're continuing on, then we're all going to not necessarily be at the same spot at the end of 10 weeks, but that you're going to be in the same mindset where you're going to be able to find things that you enjoy doing, to say, you know what, I'm not laughing and giggling the whole time I'm exercising, but I don't hate it. And that's really a big step to get to that point when you go, I don't hate doing this. I think that's probably the best I can come up with right now for where I stand with the treadmill. I don't hate it. I get up in the morning, I do all my stuff, and that's part of it. That's part of my morning. And I watch, a movie or TV or something while I'm doing it. So it's sort of an hour where I don't have to do anything. I just sort of veg out and just try to keep track of every 3 minutes or every 2 minutes at this point. So I'm to a stage where I don't hate it. Not really impartial to it either, but I do kind of feel guilty when I don't do it on the weekends. But again, then the laziness takes over and I go, yeah, but I really kind of don't want to. So, but it's been sort of in spurts and starts on the weekends. So anyway, the main reason why I sort of wanted to start all this, because I don't have anything to relate to you in regards to a documentary or a TV show or anything like that. I was going to sort of do a rant on The Biggest Loser, but I think I've voiced my opinion on shit shows like that, where I think everything is, we'll just leave it the way it is. I'm not even going to get into it. They're just horrible shows. So I didn't really want to bring up that. But in trying to find something that's going to say these are the improvements, the only thing I can talk to are the improvements that I've experienced, where, I don't hurt as much. I'm not out of breath when I'm getting out of bed, as odd as that sounds. It is an improvement. That my joints don't hurt. My body doesn't just ache all the time from carrying around so much weight. I can breathe better. I'm eating less, so I don't feel, I don't have that uncomfortable sick fullness all the time. So there are improvements that you are going to get from this as well. And a lot of you have already benefited from some of those. The main thing that I want to do now, though, is to get to a point where we can all just sort of say, okay, you know what? My diet is where it needs to be. My exercise is where it needs to be, or at least I know where it needs to be, and I'm making my way there. And then at that point, it's just sort of maintaining. The weight will come off. It's going to be a long road. I still probably have at least another 9 months ahead of me, probably another year, I'm guessing, before everything is where it needs to be, both mentally and physically, because there's stuff that's just sort of poking out everywhere that doesn't look right. But eventually, things will calm down. I know where things are going to be. So, anyway. So I don't have any documentary for you today or any TV show or anything like that, but I did want to sort of bring this up and just to talk to you to say that, this is what I'm hoping that you're going to find, is that these are the same sort of things that I've found, and you don't notice them right away. It's sort of something that you have to go back and look, say, well, 10 months ago. And that's, I think, really the one that sort of sticks with me. 10 months ago, I was out of breath getting out of bed. And it's so weird, getting to a point where I know you're saying, well, you shouldn't be, so you should be fine now. But when that's part of your life for so long, being able to look back at that and go, Jesus, I was so far gone. And I have made some strides. So I'm going to say yay for me and yay for you. Because you know what? You've done the same thing. You've followed through. You've lost the weight. And even if you're sort of, just getting into this now and you haven't followed right from day one, and whatever part that you're on, whatever path isn't right, segment, phase, wherever you are in your weight loss goal, that where you're sticking with it, you are making progress. And eventually you will get to where you need to be. I feel like I repeat this all the time, and it's a really shitty pep talk for everybody, especially when you go, we've heard this before, but anyway, I just sort of wanted to share. And they're probably going way over, and yes, I have. Shit, sorry. You know what, the video is going to be 20 minutes long. It's not going to fucking happen. I'm not going to cut it down, because I start on a topic, and if I cut it off, and I go, I should mention that, I should have mentioned this, and this, and this. So, for any of you that are still going through and going, 20, shit, I do appreciate it, but I don't know if it's going to get any shorter. So I'll just warn you now that I will do my absolute best and I would promise something that's going to make it worthwhile at the end, but I got nothing. But for right now, I am going to leave this video here. So thank you very much for watching. If you liked it, please poke the like button for me. And in the meantime, keep yourself warm and fuzzy, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.